multiple by simple also.
ठीक है. Good afternoon, everybody. Today is the last session on this accounting for managers, and today's topic is forensic accounting. Forensic accounting is somehow different from that of the normal accounting in the sense it is an in-depth accounting where the knowledge of accounting, finance, taxation is barely necessary, and beyond that, the legal formalities are also to be observed because it is somehow linked with the court of law where the things have to be presented and substantiated to establish the facts and the matters investigated. So it is somehow a new concept of accounting, that is forensic accounting. And the word forensic, according to Webster's dictionary, means belonging to, used in, or suitable to courts of judicature or to public discussions and debate. Forensic accounting is a method of accounting that deals with the relation and application of the system used to record and summarize business and financial transactions to a legal problem. Both finance-related legal problems are solved through forensic accounting and forensic auditing. Forensic accounting provides an accounting analysis that is suitable to the court, which will form the basis of discussion, debate, and ultimately resolution of the disputes. Therefore, there are two major types of forensic accounting. One is litigation support, and the second one is investigative accounting. Both are relating to the court of law, and the legal aspects are very much essential to be involved along with the finance, accounts, and taxation aspects. So forensic accountants. Forensic accountants are also called by several other names, including fraud examiner, fraud auditors, forensic auditors, fraud investigators, etc. A forensic accounting is one who is not only well versed or well trained in accounting, but also in criminology and investigation. Criminology and investigation are similarly important in case of forensic accounting because it is at par with the finance and account and taxation aspects, which are to be given equal importance for forensic accounting, because the investigation cannot take its complete shape unless and until the criminology and investigation part is given due importance on the issue. Forensic accountants go into the back room and look at the books of the other records to find out what happened, how to investigate the frauds, how to put the investigation materials through a proper court of law to counter the opposite party who has committed the fraud or blunder. So, forensic accountants go into the back room and look at the books and other records to find out the happening of the fraud, by which the investigation should be conducted in such a manner that it is properly detected and presented before the court of law. Fraud investigation and prevention is outside the normal routine of auditors. Rather than crunching the numbers of checking standardized methods, fraud investigation involves digging out the missing facts and details. It involves looking for clues and patterns in records and recreating records if they have been altered, destroyed, or falsified due to the miscreants. Scope of forensic accountants' activities. The increase in white collar crimes has a major role to play in the sudden prominence according to the profession. Investigation or white collar crime, money laundering, employees fraud, security violation, and like constitute the forensic accountant's favorite pit. The explosion of white collar crimes over the past 2 decades has resulted in virtually every major accounting firm forming a forensic division. The forensic accountants generally perform the following functions. It is the same way of accounting rather than in-depth accounting where the legal aspects, judicial aspects, and the criminology aspects have to be given due importance for discharging the duties as a perfect forensic accountant. So the first function of a forensic accountant is management support. A forensic accountant can be of assistance to management by performing reviews related to possible or actual fraud. And he may either work alone or with qualified accounting personnel. Where multiple disciplines are involved in a specific fraud review, the forensic accountant will head the team because he has to play a pivotal and the key role. Then litigation support. The forensic accountant can work for the prosecution, defense, and even the court. When working for the prosecution, the efforts of the forensic accountant will normally be to prove fraudulent activities related to accounting transactions or record. The work of the forensic accountant has been used in a variety of situations. He can identify a motive for a homicide through examination of accounting records. On the legal front also, forensic accountant services are valuable. Here, he may disprove or neutralize a scenario presented by the prosecution. Then expert witness. Witnesses are restricted generally from testifying by giving their opinions or conclusions. Qualified experts may give their professional opinion in any area or discipline of their expertise. Qualifying forensic accountants as technical experts generally is not a difficult task. Being qualified by court, forensic accountants can anticipate questions relative to their professional credentials. The reliance on forensic accountant is increasing because of lack of ethics and increasing white-collar management and corporate frauds and criminal activities. A forensic accountant is often called upon to analyze, interpret, summarize, and present complex financial and business-related issues in a manner that is both understandable and properly supported. He is often involved in the following functions also: investigation and analysis of financial evidence, development of computerized applications to assist in the analysis and presentation of financial evidence, communication of findings in the form of reports, exhibited, and documents, assistance in legal proceedings, including testifying in courts as an expert witness and preparing visual aids to support trial evidence. In addition to being familiar with legal concepts and procedures, he must be able to identify substance over when dealing with an issue. Actually, what happens in the present days, in the earlier days, there was a sole proprietorship form of organizations where the owners were managing the entire show. But in the present days, what happens in the corporate form of organizations, the owners, that means the shareholders, they are away from administration and management. The business is being left or it is being shouldered by the stewards or the managers of the company or the corporate form of organization. So when maximum liberty is being given to the managers, they used to exercise their subjective thoughts, subjective views in managing the show, in managing the organization. And this creates a problem which is called the agency problem in the organization. And that agency problem, to solve the agency problem that is being created in the corporate forms of organizations, the role of forensic accountant is much more important and vital in order to solve that agency problem, which is very often created or very common in the present days in case of corporate form of organizations. So forensic accounting versus forensic auditing. One of the best ways to understand the nature of forensic accounting is to examine how a fraud or investigative audit differs from the traditional audit. In case of traditional audit, what happens? The auditors, they do not have any investigating approach. They used to examine the books of accounts, and on the basis of verification of the books of accounts, they used to submit their report to the management. But that doesn't happen so in case of forensic accounting. Forensic accounting developed basically from the inherent limitations of auditing. The traditional auditing starts from an accounting record, and basic accounting records are tools for the auditing. They form the part of conducting the very part or very documents on basing on which the audit is being conducted and the report is prepared. But the forensic thinking starts with understanding of commercial activities and how those activities may or may not be expressed in records of account. That means a fraud, that means the persons who are indulged in creating frauds, they are also expert in manipulating the records. So when the records are manipulated, and on the basis of such manipulated records, if an auditor is going to express its opinion or form its audit report, then obviously it would be misleading. So the role of forensic accountant is to first examine that what type of manipulation is being caused to the records which is being provided for purpose of audit. That is the role, that is the essentiality of the forensic audit, and in that way it is different from that of the common audit or the general audit. Audits are mostly conducted on a routine basis. The traditional audit is being conducted mostly on a routine basis, but forensic accounting is undertaken only when there is a reasonable suspicion that a fraud has occurred, is occurring, or will occur in future. Traditional audits are aimed at the systems and procedures. Forensic audits are focused at possible violations of criminal and civil law. The basic difference between the two are furnished below. The investigating attitude in case of forensic accounting or forensic auditing is much more higher than that of the traditional audit. So let us see what are the basic difference between the two types, traditional audit and forensic audit. First one is as regards purpose or objective. The purpose of traditional auditing is to determine the true and fair view of the financial statements. You must have seen that when the auditors used to give their opinion, they used to write that this is the true and fair view of the statement of accounts or the books of accounts examined by them. So the traditional auditing always gives the reflection of the true and fair view of the financial statements. Traditional auditing is conducted to express the opinion on the financial statements, while forensic audit determines whether fraud has occurred or is occurring or will occur in future. The forensic auditor has to determine who is responsible for the fraud, or who is the creator of the fraud, or who has caused the manipulation in the records by which the fraud is being generated. So this is the first difference between the traditional audit and the forensic audit. Second one is timing of work. The traditional audit is conducted at the year end after the books of accounts is over, the audit is being conducted, and the auditors used to express their opinion on the books of accounts so examined by them. Therefore, it is somewhat predictable and easier for the fraudsters to conceal frauds. The persons who are indulged in creating frauds or manipulating the accounts, they are well aware that by what time the audit is to be conducted, and accordingly, they used to prepare the books of accounts in such a manner, and by that time, that they can easily, uh, what is that? Convince the traditional auditors to express their opinion as if nothing has happened, no manipulation has been caused to the books of accounts. So that is the traditional audit, that is the result of the traditional audit. But forensic audit, what happens is non-regular in nature and conducted only when there is an allegation or a suspicion that something is amiss or some fraud is being reported. So there is no timing for conducting the forensic audit. If the management desires that in such and such area there is some flaw in the books of accounts or some fraud is being committed, then immediately it can ask for conducting the forensic audit, and it is the duty of the forensic auditor to start the work at the right earnest without giving any time or scope to the creator of the frauds to manipulate the records or to revise the records. So this is the timing of work. Second one is motivation of audit. Traditional audit is required by the regulators of SEC. SEC means Security Exchange Commission, and filing or SEBI, Security Exchange Board of India, or for inclusion of audit report in annual reports. But the motivation behind forensic audit, as said earlier, is to resolve specific allegation. Traditional audit is a common way of conducting audit at the year end or at the half year end. It has to be conducted. The audit report is to be framed, and along with the auditor's report and director's report, the annual report of the company has to be printed and it has to be published. That is the essentiality of the traditional audit. But the forensic audit is not as common or as usual like that of the traditional audit. Whenever it is detected that some fraud is being committed, some manipulation in the books of accounts has been created, then there can be a direction from the management to conduct the forensic audit, and it has to be conducted in an instant manner. Then procedures used, traditional audit and forensic audit. Traditional audit is conducted by examining the financial data. Techniques identified in generally accepted auditing standards are used for traditional audit. But the forensic auditors use interviews, surveillance, interrogation, investigation, public records, searches, network analysis, and other investigative approach in their work. So it is completely different from that of the traditional audit. Normally it is said that the auditors are not the bloodhound, but in case of a forensic audit, they are acting as the bloodhound. So education and training. Traditional auditors should have professional knowledge on generally accepted accounting principles and generally accepted auditing standards. A forensic accountant has knowledge in forgery, its theory and techniques, conspiracy, fraud schemes, method of detection and investigation techniques of interview, criminology, and relevant laws. So this is as regards education and training. Then basic skills required by a forensic accountant. To be effective as a forensic accountant, one needs legal training in addition to education and extensive experience in the field of finance, accounting, taxes, and auditing. Legal training is an additional requirement over and above the knowledge in finance, accounting, taxes, and auditing, because it has to be established in the court of law. The investigation report has to be established in the proper court of law, and it has to be countered by the opposite party as and when necessary. work of the forensic accountant will many times be used in a court of law, expertise in litigation, support, and testimony in courts of law are also prerequisites of the forensic accountant. Without that, a forensic accountant cannot do justice to his job. The knowledge of business valuation theory is most helpful because many times a forensic accountant is called upon to determine the damages which have been resulted from criminal and civil wrongdoing. It may be from criminal violation or it may be due to violation of the civil law. But whatever may be the issue, the valuation theory is most helpful because at many times a forensic accountant is called upon to determine the damages on that score. So, in addition to specialized knowledge about techniques of detecting frauds, one needs patience and an analytical mindset. An analytical mindset is one of the prerequisites of the forensic accountant because that is very much essential for making the investigation or probing into the matter and to dig out the truth. One has to look beyond the numbers of grasp the substance of the situation. It is basically the work of the intelligent accountants. Apart from basic accounting skills, they need to pay attention to the smallest details, analyze data thoroughly, think creatively, possess common business sense, be proficient with a computer, and have excellent communication skill. Without that, a forensic accountant cannot be competent enough to discharge its duties perfectly and in a thorough manner. A sixth sense that can be used to reconstruct details of past accounting transactions is also beneficial. A photographic memory helps when trying to visualize and reconstruct these past events. The forensic accountant also needs the ability to maintain his composure when detailing these events on the witness stand. Finally, a forensic accountant should be insensitive to personal attacks on his professional credibility. In case of normal audit, what happens? The duties and responsibilities of the auditors is over by submitting the audit report to the management. In a traditional manner, he will examine the books of accounts, he will examine the records, he will examine the documents provided to him, and on the basis of that, he will certify the financial statements and prepare a report, and that report has to be submitted subject to the verification of books of accounts and production of the books of accounts which are being verified by the auditors. But in that case, there is no need for the traditional auditors to establish the contents of the audit reports either before any court of law or before any opposite party who is supposed to counter the audit report or the financial statements. That doesn't happen so. But in case of forensic accountant, what happens? It is quite common and somehow mandatory to establish the findings of the forensic accountant in a proper court of law, in a proper judicial forum, and there is every probability of strong counter from the opposite party against which the fraud is being established or the manipulation of accounts, the charges for manipulation of accounts is being created. So the forensic accountant must be thorough and must be competent enough to encounter the possible counterattacks from the opposite party. According to Mishra and Joshi of Indian Forensic Consultancy Services, the traits of the forensic accountants could be compared a well-baked pizza. A pizza, when it is well-baked, it has been compared with that of the forensic accountants. The base of forensic accounting is accounting knowledge. The base of the forensic accounting is accounting knowledge. Fine. Then size and extent of baking. The size and extent of baking decides the quality of the pizza. In what way the baking has been done. Similarly, the middle layer constitutes diverse knowledge of auditing, internal control, risk assessment, and fraud detection. This is in the middle layer. Then it is like the cheese spread on the pizza. Like the toppings of a pizza, like basic understanding of the legal environment is essential to support the litigations. A strong set of communication skill, both written and oral, from the garnishing part, just like the cherry on the top. Perfect combination of the pizza base, cheese spread on the good topping, make the pizza delicious, and similarly, the above mentioned attributes make the forensic auditor efficient and proficient. The forensic accountant should have the ability to deal with people, because encountering the public or facing the public time and again is very common in case of discharging the duty of a forensic accountant. He should be able to attract and motivate people to help him in the examination or in course of conducting the investigation. If he is not friendly with the people, then people will not cooperate with him. And unless and until the counterpart cooperates with the forensic accountant, he cannot dig out the truth and he cannot able to probe into the matter and justify the appropriate justice to his job. So he should be able to attract and motivate people to help him in the examination or help him in conducting the investigation. Attitudes towards the others is also another important characteristics. In what way he is reacting to the others. His attitude and behavior should be friendly, otherwise people may not cooperate with him. And when the people will not cooperate with him, he will not be able to conduct the thorough investigation, which is very much essential for discharging his duties. He should not be tough in dealing with people. His approach should not be harsh at all. It should be very palatable, so that people will come and cooperate with him, so as to the investigation can be conducted in a smooth and intense manner. The forensic accountant should also observe and listen carefully. He should be a careful listener. In spite of reacting to the people, he should give a patient hearing to the counterpart, so that many things will be digged out from the opposite parties. So his attitude and behavior should be friendly, otherwise people may not cooperate with him, and he should not be very tough in its dealing with the people. The forensic accountant should also observe and listen carefully. This can improve his ability to detect lies and conclude whether fraud has been committed or not. This is so because not all liars are fraudsters, but all fraudsters are liars. This is important. All liars, they do not necessarily indulge in committing frauds. But a person who has committed frauds, he will definitely order to lie, because in order to substantiate his genuineness, in order to substantiate that he is not indulged in fraud, in creating frauds, you have to take the help of the liars time and again. That's why it is appropriately said that all liars are not fraudsters, but all fraudsters are necessarily the liars. A forensic accountant has to meet several people, including innocent people, and conduct for purpose of conducting interviews. The forensic accountant should have the ability to talk the language used by the other person. An educated person can understand diplomatic questions, but a person who is a school dropout, he cannot. Thus, while posing questions or while quoting questions to the counterpart, the forensic accountant should keep in mind the other people's background. Otherwise, the way the investigation is conducted or the way the questions are put to the counterpart, if it is not coming to their mind, if they are not able to understand the questions properly, then the answers given by them would never be appropriate. And when the answers collected from the counterpart is not appropriate, then the forensic accountant would not be able to frame its opinion in a perfect manner. So the investigation cannot be said to be a foolproof one. So the very purpose of the forensic accountant will be vitiated or will be deviated. So in addition to these personal characteristics, forensic accountants must meet several additional requirements to gain the position of forensic accountants, like a certification acknowledging their competence. One can learn forensic accounting by obtaining a diploma given by the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, ACFE, in the US, or postgraduate diploma in forensic accounting from ICFI. The Canadian Institute of Chartered Accountants, CICA, has taken an initiative in this direction and issued guidelines and the pronouncements regarding investigative accounting. Besides the formal certificate, one can deepen one's knowledge and sharpen one's skill in forensic accounting by undergoing training under an experienced forensic accountant, participating in various international conferences, reading relevant journals, books, and other literatures on forensic accounting. In India, apart from ICFI, the India Forensic Research Foundation is also offering certification courses in forensic field. So these are the qualifications required by a forensic accountant in order to be indulged in the profession and in order to discharge his duties properly as a forensic accountant. It may be ICFI in India or it may be India Forensic Research Foundation. But getting a certificate from the institution is not enough. You need to sharpen your knowledge. The forensic accountant need to sharpen its knowledge, need to validate its experience with a thorough investigation, as a result of which you will be able to discharge his duties properly and you will be able to dig out the truth. You will be detect the frauds from the very grassroots level. So applications of forensic accounting, in which field and how the forensic accounting is being applied to. Forensic accountants can be involved in wide range of investigation. Should be involved in wide range of investigations spanning different industries. The practical and in-depth analysis that a forensic accountant brings to a case will help to uncover trends and to bring into light the relevant issues. The various areas where a forensic accountant could play an important role are as follows. The field or the areas where the forensic accountant could play an important role. The first one is criminal investigations. Forensic accountants can assist the police force or lawyers in criminal investigations involving accounting or financial reporting crimes. Their involvement would ensure a professional touch and expertise to such cases which may not be offered by other parties. The police, they may be thorough in their criminal approach. The lawyers, they may be thorough in the legal aspects. But accounts and finance related and taxation related issues can be thoroughly investigated into, can be thoroughly probed into by a forensic accountant who has a knowledge base on accounting, finance, and taxation. So, along with the police, along with the lawyers, the forensic accountant, the role of the forensic accountant is much more important and vital for digging out or for conducting a criminal investigation. Then shareholders and partners disputes. Forensic accountants generally analyze the financial statements and the reports of many years during the process of their investigation, maybe for past several years, not for necessarily for a year or for a two, because the seed of committing fraud may dates back to series of past years. So forensic accountants generally analyze the financial statements and the reports of the organization for the past few years during the course of their investigation. This would enable qualifying the disputed issues, and this would also enable to quantify the disputes regarding the commission of the frauds. The most common instances of such disputes arise with regard to the compensation and benefit given to shareholders and the partners. By examining the financial statements of the organization in a professional manner, the forensic accountant can attempt to solve such issues in an amicable manner. Then insurance claims. A forensic accountant can be asked to quantify and assess losses that occurred during accidents on behalf of the insurance companies. The insurance companies, they used to indemnify the loss sustained by the insured. Indemnification means to make good of the actual loss. That means it has to be thoroughly assessed that what is the exact loss, what is the exact quantum of loss sustained by the insured due to the mishap or due to the untoward event. So in order to determine the exactness of the loss suffered by the insured, the insurance company or the insurer, they used to appoint a forensic accountant who would be able to exactly quantify the loss sustained either due to accident or due to any other perils or any other cause of creating loss to the insured. This would help them to identify any false or excessive claims made by the policyholders and thus reduce the risk of extra payments made. With the increasing number of insurance players entering the Indian market and the subsequent increase in number of policyholders, the role of a forensic accountant in reducing insurance claim frauds is of great importance. Forensic accountants may also be hired by an insured party for settling disputes or claims, as if this involves a thorough review of the terms and conditions of the policy. Normally, what happens in case of settlement of an insurance claim? There is a big probability of having connivance of the insured along with the employee of the insurance company to increase the claim amount in an undue manner which is not genuinely due to them. So in order to arrest this situation, it is the duty of the insurer, it is the duty of the management of the insurer company or the insurance company to find out or to determine that what is the exact amount of loss sustained by the insured. In order to do that, along with the surveyor, the investigators are appointed by the insurance company to encounter and to investigate the matter or to probe into the matter in a thorough manner, as a result of which the quantum of loss can be thoroughly justified and no element of extra amount is allowed. The insured is allowed to collect any extra amount from the insurance company by which they can gain over the situation. The insurance company is there. It is the duty of the insurance company to make good of the actual loss, to indemnify the actual loss sustained by the insured. But it should not be a business in the hands of the insured by which they will make a gain by establishing a claim before the insurance company out of the policy taken by them. So in that case, it is the role. It is a very pivotal and vital role the forensic accountants they used to play on behalf of the insurance company. So business investigations next. Forensic accountants can be involved in business investigations by way of funds tracing, asset identification and recovery, forensic intelligence gathering, and due diligence reviews. These are also the important roles which are being played by the forensic auditors or the forensic accountant. Then employee fraud investigation. In case of employee fraud investigation, a forensic accountant determines the existence, nature, and extent of fraud and attempts to identify the perpetrator, who is creating the fraud, who is behind the screen, who is manipulating the accounts as a result of which the fraud is being generated. That is the duty of the forensic accountant to determine. These investigations often entail interviews of personnel who had access to the funds and a detailed review of the documentary evidences. Simply by examining the books of accounts and records, that fact cannot be revealed. A thorough interview, a thorough examination of the personnels who are indulged in manipulating the records is to be made, as a result of which it will dig out the truth. So employee fraud investigation is another duty, important duty of the fraud examiner or the forensic accountant. Then business economic losses. The forensic accountant may be called to investigate and analyze the business or economic losses, aspects such as contract disputes, construction claims, expropriation, product liability claims, trademarks, and patent infringements, and losses stemming from a breach of non-competition agreement. These are the economic losses, business economic losses, which are to be examined by the fraud examiner or by the professional called the forensic accountant, so that it would be of immense help to the business. Then professional negligence. A forensic accountant can also investigate the presence of professional negligence in any litigation. If any professional has not discharged his duties properly, there is any negligence in discharging the duties, then that can be detected or investigated by the forensic accountants. There are two angles involved in such investigation. One is the technical angle, by which the forensic accountant examines whether the accounting and auditing procedures have been strictly adhered to or neglected. The other angle is the quantification of losses arising out of professional negligence. In case of financial or accounting losses, forensic accountant conducts the investigation from both the angles, or else he would be conducting loss quantification only. So it has to be conducted from both the angles. Then family disputes. In case of family disputes, including matrimonial settlements issues, a forensic accountant can assist in tracing, locating, and evaluating the family assets to arrive at an acceptable mode of settlement and distribution. The assets to be valued may be business, properties, or others. So in this case also, the role of the forensic accountants cannot be put into oblivion. Then capital market efficiency. A forensic accountant can also play a vital role in resolving shareholders' grievances and reducing securities market frauds. In current rising market scenario, there are doubts about genuine share price valuation. A forensic accountant's role can be vital in analyzing the share price movements and the reasons behind frequent price fluctuations, either increase or decrease. Corporate governance. The increased importance given to corporate governance in Indian organizations has created an additional scope of forensic accountants. The internal control, the internal control of an organization ensures effectiveness and efficiency of operations, the reliability of financial reporting, and compliance with applicable laws and regulations. However, with many companies adopting unethical practices to satisfy stakeholders, the internal control system is in need of thorough scrutiny and modification. Organizations can make use of the skills of forensic accountants for developing a consistent system of corporate governance, disseminating information within and outside the company, ensuring that governance policy and objectives are embedded into the internal control system, and setting up fraud prevention system to investigate frauds. Despite all these, the following major corporate frauds took place in India. In spite of all these activities, in spite of all these precautions taken by the management, the major corporate frauds which took place in India are agenda, which is a part of this forensic account discussion of this forensic accounting. The first one is Satyam Computer. Satyam Computer was one of the leading information technology companies of India. The promoters of the company devised ingenious ways to defraud the company and siphon off a large amount of money to the tune of $1 billion. The modus operandi was to issue dummy bills for the services not actually rendered to foreign clients. The proceeds were shown in the bank accounts opened in various countries, and many of these bank accounts were either non-existent or the balances shown in them were highly inflated. In a nutshell, this fraud is comprised of two parts. One is showing inflated revenue, and the second is showing inflated cash balances with the balance which was not actually existing in the bank accounts. Second major fraud in India was Kingfisher Airlines. Kingfisher Airline, after its establishment, developed as one of the finest airline in the private sector in India, garnering the second highest market share after Jet Airways. The fall of airline started with the company borrowing huge funds from banks and related parties. The collateral for this borrowing was Kingfisher's brand, an intangible asset. In India's financial history, it was probably the first time when banks had considered an intangible assets as collateral security. When the promoters failed to pay back the principal amount and interest thereon, the brand value of Kingfisher took a nosedive and was virtually not of the value. The bank was saddled with NPS of more than rupees 9,000 crores. Securities are of two types. One is primary security, another is the collateral security. Primary security is the security which is being offered to the banks and financial institutions on which the borrowed sum get invested. Take the example of a term loan taken for buying of the car. Then the car would be the primary security. But in order to ensure the return of the loan or recovery of the loan, over and above the primary security, the banks and financial institutions, they used to keep a collateral security, which is beyond or over and above the primary security on which the borrowed sum get invested. Collateral security, when the primary security is not able to or is not able to provide substantial financial resources to the banker for recovery of the entire borrowed amount, then the collateral securities are taken into task. Here, in case of Kingfisher Airline, the brand of the Kingfisher, which is purely an intangible asset, doesn't carrying any financial value, was taken as collateral security, as a result of which the huge loss was caused to the financial bank and financial institutions, as nothing was recoverable from these collateral securities, which is purely an intangible one. Then the next fraud was caused by Jet Airways. Jet Airways had the largest market share among the Indian airline operators with best-in-class services. However, its financial practices were questionable, which included overstating commissions paid to a related party based in Dubai, resulting in an overstatement of expenses and underreporting of profits. Then diversion of funds by giving loans around 3,353 cases, and accounting of fake invoices. These are the frauds conducted by the Jet Airways. All these led to default in payment to lenders, vendors, employees, airport authorities of India, and lessors of aircraft. The total liability on which it defaulted was 25,000 crores, including 8,000 crores to the lenders. So these were the fraud caused by the Jet Airways. Then Bhushan Steel. Bhushan Steel was a profitable company with modern large-scale plant, but the promoters indulged in multiple fraudulent practices, which were transfer of borrowed fund to various related parties by way of loans and advances. That means siphoning of funds. Then accounting for capital expenses that were never incurred and misappropriation of these funds. The funds amounting to 50,000 crores, and investigation agencies have been able to establish that an amount of 2,348 crores was diverted to more than 2,000 shell companies. In that way, there was a major fraud committed by the Bhushan Steel in India. Then PNB fraud. Two diamond traders defrauded the PNB to the tune of 16,000 crores. Both of them imported rough diamonds and exported polished diamonds. Their modus operandi was to open LCs and a large amount without any underlying transaction. These fraudulent practices didn't come to the light as the LCs were not recorded in the RTGS system of the bank, and thus avoided the reconciliation process of matching LCs with the actual transactions. So these are the major frauds conducted by the diamond importers through the PNB. Then forensic, what should be the technique of the forensic audit? A normal financial audit confirms that the financial statements give a true and fair picture, true and fair view of the state of affairs of the company and complied with all applicable laws and accounting policies. During the course of the audit, auditors may come across transactions that are not normal in nature or are not backed with sufficient documentary evidences. To investigate these anomalies, forensic audit is being done. Some of the techniques involved in forensic auditing to examine the frauds are as under. First one is testing internal controls. Most organizations have internal control in place, but there are certain weak links that are exploited by the fraudsters to commit fraud. A good initial forensic auditing technique is to understand and analyze the internal control of an organization and find possible ways to circumvent the controls. This will give a fair idea to the auditors of the possible path of the fraudsters. Second, trend analysis. Most of the companies grow at a normal rate, and the various transactions required to accomplish the business task also exhibit a certain trade, certain spikes and throws in the trend causing variation indicate something unusual and are worth investigation. During the forensic investigation, the auditor should review the organization's historical norms and analysis, the outlier events in the context of historical norms. So the trend analysis is a tool in the hands of the forensic accountants to make the investigation in a proper manner. Then digital forensic examination. Digital forensic examination is one of the most important techniques of fraud investigation, as digital trials are difficult to cover up and manipulate. A close scrutiny of phone logs, official emails, accounting records, and company database will uncover many hidden facts that are required for forensic investigation. A digital forensic examination is quite a compelling job and may require the assistance of computer and database specialists to assist the accounting and financial auditors. Face-to-face interview. It is always a good idea to understand organizational dynamics and process dynamics before understanding the forensic audit. Face-to-face interview with the executives and managers is an effective tool to accomplish this. The information provided by them can direct the audit in the right direction. Most of them would have information about the event and have a perspective without being directly connected to the event or to the fraud. Then full financial audit. Before commencing forensic audit, it is important to conduct the full financial audit and accounting audit, which involves bank statement reconciliation, scrutiny of vendor contracts and payment, verification of sales and purchase, review of tax returns and other filings with the public authorities. The findings of the financial audit give a lead to forensic auditors to identify suspicious transactions and trace them back to potential perpetrators. The next is application of Benford's law. Benford's law is a mathematical tool to determine whether the variable under study, suspicious transactions, is a case of unintentional error or fraud. The basic premise on which this law operates is that fabricated figures as indicator of frauds possesses a different pattern from random figures, which are generally for normal business transactions. Once a series of transactions is identified as suspected transactions, the leftmost digit of the figure is extracted of all transactions of that particular variable and summarized for entire population. Next, the observed count percentage of the leftmost digit is calculated, and then Benford's set an application to carry out a parametric test known as the Z test, which is used to determine whether two population means are different when the variance are caused or not. The sample size is large. Here, the two population sets are Benford's percentage numbers for the first digit and observed numbers for the first digit. It is observed data conforms the percentage of Benford's law. It implies that observed data is Benford's set and there is a 68% chance of no error or fraud. Similar sets have been developed by Benford for 2, 3 and last digit as well. This method can be used for analysis of credit card transaction, purchase orders, loan sanctions below 5 lakhs, and any amount above that has to be detected because of fraudsters' activities. So these are the tools available in the hands of the fraud investigator, or in case of forensic accountant, by which it can establish the generation of the fraud and how it is to be properly investigated into, and how it is to be encountered in the proper court of law when the fraud is being detected, and how it is established in the court of law uh, by examining the counterparts wherever necessary. This is all about the forensic accounting. Thanks to all.